Hello. This is gonna be a little different. This is mainly audio. But I let's see, where should we start? So this is gonna be a rant. So I just got out of watching Wonka, and um, well, so it's bad. That's for sure. So I didn't intend on seeing Wonka. Um, I thought that it looked like shit and didn't really want to see it. But I got invited to a free showing essentially. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll go see it because I have been particularly this year trying to broaden my horizons as far as film goes. I think I've seen like 30 something new films in theaters, and that's not counting. I do need to watch The Killer. Mahler keeps recommending that, and I haven't gotten around to seeing that because I don't really use streaming services that often. Not or particularly not Netflix, but I do want to check that out. I do like Michael Fassbender, and I'm glad he's returned to acting. But so getting back to Wonka, so I knew I was going to see it tonight, and the trailer didn't look great, which, trailers can be deceiving. Um, but I decided to watch the original Willy Wonka last night. And man, is that a good film. Like, it really holds up. For something that was meant to be a commercial for the Quaker Oats chocolate bar, um, there's a lot of character in there, and care, which is something that is extremely lacking in Wonka. Um, so Wonka opens up with a musical rendition of the Imagine song. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of it right now. Um, but I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows the one. It's really iconic. Come with me, and you'll see a world of imagination. Um, or those aren't the correct lines, but you know the song that I'm talking about. Um, and it opens up with that melody, which immediately put me off because it's like, oh, okay, so we're already using things that we didn't make to prop up our own product. It's like that. It's fine. You can do it well, but I mean that's kind of the problem. Is Wonka doesn't do it well. Um, yeah. So and then Willy Wonka's on a boat and he's singing, which the original is a musical in the sense of it has songs, but the songs are relevant to the plot, um, which is a problem with Wonka, where Wonka, most if not all of the songs are it's information that we've already been given, just stretched out for longer, um, which is a real waste. Um, it sucks, man. Because it's even I know people rag on the on Charlie's mom's song in the original, which I don't really think it's that bad. It's definitely the weakest of the songs in the original. Um, but like the original doesn't rely on its songs, whereas Wonka definitely felt like, oh yeah, we really want people to buy our soundtrack. Which I think the problem with that is that Wonka doesn't have any standout songs. Like, they have a rendition of the Imagination song, but it's bad and like takes away literally all of the meaning from the Imagination song. It's literally just like they put the they changed the lyrics to Wonka singing about what is literally happening in front of him while he's trying to sing about like imagination and the power of dreams. And it's like, what? That's not how you do this. Like, that is antithetical to the meaning of that song. Like, the whole point is that you're supposed to imagine things, not see them literally happening. Like, that's not. Ah. But. And, like. It's so weird. Because I guess the only other song that maybe stands out is, like, the Scrub Scrub song. And even that, it's like, well, yeah, it's because it has a chorus of scrub scrub. Like, that's really, that's the only memorable part. Like, they they ape the Oompa Loompas song, because I guess for some reason that's how Hugh Grant, the Oompa Loompa, that's how he chooses to tell them about his story in Loompa Land. It's really weird because they take the Tim Burton backstory, kind of or not Charlie, Willie takes the cocoa beans from Loompa Land, except for in this, he doesn't negotiate with the Oompa Loompas. Hell, he doesn't even know they exist. He just shows up at this island, takes some cocoa beans, and leaves. Apparently, the Oompa Loompas only had 4 cocoa beans. So that's why Hugh Grant is following him, is to steal enough chocolate because he needs to repay the tribe 1,000-fold. Which, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it feels like that would be something, like your goal would be accomplished a lot better if you directly told Willy Wonka, because it's like, man, good thing that, like, he's chosen to make chocolate, I guess, because you'd be really screwed if, like, he just took those cocoa beans because they were, like, the only edible thing there. But, God, this is just such, like, shit. So, this is a, like, strict musical in the sense of there are very few scenes that are, like, actually just talking. And the beginning makes it really confusing because God, the editing in this film it's bad. Like, because there's a lot of really quick cuts where it's like, oh, I'm pretty sure that shot lasted for longer, but they needed to, like, cut it down, and so they chose to. But it, like, I wouldn't say they've got flash frames, but they're getting pretty close. And, like, Willie's singing this song about how he's gonna open up a chocolate shop and sing, and they have this really weird cut where, because he's singing and, like, there's all these people dancing around him with umbrellas, and then they have a really quick cut of a cop, like, looking out into the square, and Willy Wonka's just sort of, like, standing there on his own, just sort of singing, and, like, everyone else is going about their day. And then they cut back to Willie singing with all the people behind him, and it's like it's really jarring, especially for the rest of the film, because it's like, I would imagine the goal of that would be to show the audience that, like, oh, the musical aspect of this is all in Willie's head, but it's not. Like, the rest of the film, it is a musical. Like, they even have Keegan Michael Key's character comments on, like, oh, I'm singing now, which it's like, it's a weird, like, especially for Keegan Michael Key, because that literally was a Key and Peele joke. Like, they did a Les Miserables parody. Like, they comment on the fact of like, why are we all singing? Like, um, but his character really only exists to be fat, um, which is a weird thing coming from the Roald Dahl Company, the same people that cut out the word fat from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the book. Um, Really weird that they'd allow that in, because, like, that is the joke. That is the extent of the joke, is that he likes chocolate and he cannot stop eating, and he gains a lot of weight really fast, to the point where he gains so much weight that he, like, was not able to get out of his car at one point. And it's like, oh, that's weird. And the hyper absurdism is another weird thing about this, because I mean, it's trying to be a prequel. I guess not necessarily to the original, but to the original story in some sense. But you can't, from where this film leaves off, you cannot make the original story. Like, it doesn't work. Um, because in this, like, they have characters comment on how weird Willie is, but everyone's that weird. Everyone has been dialed up to 11. Like, and it's really weird where the Chocolate Cartel, they're really the only villains in the film, and they are explicitly greedy capitalists. And it's like, that's really weird. Like, it was a point in the original that greed was bad, sure. Not that capitalism was bad, because that's a really weird, like, considering that the story ends with Willie giving the chocolate factory to Charlie to, like, presumably benefit his family off of the money that they will make. Seems really weird to, like, criticize capitalism in a Willy Wonka, like, you know, it's like the movie that you're trying to ape from the most, which is the original, like, it was literally made as a commercial. I don't, it's a really weird place to try and throw in, like, oh yeah, like, greedy capitalist aristocrats that they hate the poor so much that, like, they get sick at mention of the poor. Um, it also feels like that's a weird, like, did they watch the original and go, oh, Charlie's poor, and that's why he's a good person? Because it's like, no, like, I mean, because, like, Mike TV is, like, pretty middle class. Like, they're not super rich. Like, his dad is a used car salesman. Like, and it's like, yeah, and, like, there aren't really any subtle jokes. Like, the closest they come to is that, like, people's names will be, like, a description of their profession. And I mean, I guess that's something. It's not like in the original, all the married couples that we meet are they're the same name but male and female. So Grandpa George and Grandma Georgina, and Grandpa Joe and Grandma Josephine. and I forget the other one, but there's another married couple in there that have the same name but male and female, and it's like that's cute, but also the original has like jokes that actually work. Whereas the Wonka does not. Wonka is devoid of like because it's got jokes, absolutely. They are like if you wanted to take your 3-year-old to this, I guess if they could understand the words, then they might like get a chuckle out of it. But like, it's so bizarre. And like, I'm really hesitant to like calling things woke, because I really don't think that's the problem. I think it's bad writing is the problem, and I know that there's the argument of like, oh well, but wokeness is causing them to have bad writing, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I mean, I really don't give a shit like what the politics of the creator are. Just as long as they make a good story. But just add it to the pile. This is another legacy male character that they can't leave alone. Which it's so weird for Willy Wonka of all characters. Because Willy Wonka in the original is like very much a morally gray to like morally neutral character, I suppose. Like, he takes actions that aren't great, in the sense of it seems like he, especially with the Slugworth plant, or the fake Slugworth, like it's clear that he knew which children were going to get picked. One thing that is nice about the original is that all of the children that like they do get eliminated from the competition in some way or another. It's all due to their own actions. Whereas in this, like again, the Chocolate Cartel, they're the only bad guys, and they're only bad in the sense of they are greedy. Like, I guess Olivia Colman's character, like, she's bad, but that's another weird... Because she's bad in the sense of she has a bunch of indentured servants, which she makes Willy Wonka one of them, because... Oh, right. So getting back to my point, or tying this into my point about ruining male characters, Willy Wonka can't read in this one. The man who in the original is quoting Shakespeare and like a bunch of other different literature works. Yeah, he can't read in this one. And so he has to be taught by a little black orphan girl how to read. Which doesn't really make sense given the backstory we have for the little orphan girl, because she was dropped off like at the laundry place that Olivia Colman runs, and Olivia Colman basically raised her into indentured servitude. And it's like, oh, I guess at one point Olivia Colman taught her how to read. I don't know why. Like, Olivia Colman seems to hate this little girl, but she did teach her how to read. But Willy Wonka becomes an indentured servant because of the fact that he's illiterate. He fails to read the fine print on this really long contract that Olivia Colman makes him sign. Which, yeah, so if they have that be a part of, like, a remake of the original that it seems like they want to make, that takes that from being a, like, morally neutral to, like, morally dubious action to something that Willy Wonka should be morally opposed to doing. Like, you can't have the character who sees it as a bad thing to be tricked by small text on a contract, you can't have that character then go and make a bunch of children sign a contract that has text that is too small to read. Like, you can't. It's so bizarre. I don't know why they would have done that. And, like, God, this one. Because, like, there are a lot of jokes in the original that are clearly made for adults. Like, you know, like, even in the beginning, all the little cutaway gags, like, sure, children can enjoy them, but, like, they're clearly not made for, like, the lowest common denominator. Even the guy with the computer, where he tries to tell the computer, I'll split the lifetime supply of chocolate with you, and the computer tells him, like, what would I do with a lifetime supply of chocolate? Like, like, that's a good joke. And, like, yeah, children can get it, but it's not designed so that, like, oh, yeah, little babies will understand this. It's like, no, you might have to walk, like, a kid through that. But it's like, it's fine. Like, it's a joke for everyone. But this film doesn't do that. Fucking all of the jokes are extremely juvenile or, like, just right on the nose. Like, fucking, I can't believe. Why would they have done Oompa Loompa, fucking, we never learn his name, by the way. I thought at first that it was Lofty because he says that the other Oompa Loompas call him Lofty, but no, he meant that in, like, the term lofty, that, like, he is very large. He didn't mean that as in that's his name. He never gives his name. And throughout the film, they just call him Orange Man. Like, the little orange man. So, fucking Donald Trump, like, he gets captured by Willy Wonka, right? And so he, like, decides to tell him his backstory. And for some reason, he sings it in the Oompa Loompa song. And then, because this film has a lot of weird ways of doing flashback, where sometimes they'll put, like, a heavy film grain filter over it. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll do it using, like, multiple slides and try and get away with it that way. But it's really inconsistent how they show flashbacks. But the Oompa Loompa backstory, they decided to have the Oompa Loompa, he bends over and he farts, and we stare into his fart, and that's where Loompa Land is. Yeah, I'm so glad that I got the backstory to Loompa Land through an Oompa Loompa's ass. Like, God damn it, why? Why is that a decision they made? Like, and yeah, and they turn everything up to 11, which it's like, yeah, okay, so you can't do the original, because the original, like, a lot of the point of the original is that Willy Wonka is the odd one out. Everyone else is playing the straight man. That's where a lot of the humor in the original comes from. But you've turned everything up to 11 to the point where, yeah, they say chocolates, as in, yeah, that's what Willy Wonka makes, is chocolate. But no, he makes magical gifts. Like, he makes a chocolate that makes a child see hope. Like, what the hell? Like, and I don't mean in the sense of, like, wow, that tasted so good, like, I feel great now. No, I mean that he literally incorporates literal sunshine and storm clouds into a chocolate to make them, like, see hope. And it's like, yeah, and also people just fly, because it's not like fizzy lifting drink is supposed to be like an experimental thing that would obviously never go out to the public or anything. and like all of his weird quirks about like in the original, he says like, and when they're in the inventing room, he says that like time is precious, never waste it, and throws the clock into like a pot, and like he throws a couple shoes into a pot and says that it gives it a little kick. One of the pots is too cold, and he throws in some coats, and like, you know, it's like those are humorous gags, but this one takes it like up to 11, because like I don't know why, but there is a scene of Willie milking a giraffe. Yeah, really didn't need to like see that ever. I don't know. I would hope they looked it up before the film, but like I don't know if giraffes do produce milk that like human can drink. Um, you know, they might be like rhinos where that ain't milk you're getting. Um, but yeah, fucking this film sucks. I like I said, I've watched a lot of new movies this year, and most of them are, well, most of them are probably in the okay range, where they're not great, they're also not terrible. A lot of them are in the terrible range, um, and then there's a few that make the like good to okay range. I'm thinking of doing a video kind of like this, but just briefly going over each film that I saw last year. But I'll do that sometime in the first of the year. But yeah, I'm very hesitant to recommend against seeing movies, just because I think there's a lot to learn from a bad example. But my God, man, this is really, there's nothing to learn. Like everything, fucking. So the last scene of the movie is Willie making his factory, which he does through the power of imagination, I guess. But it's all CG, and it looks like ass. So I don't know if it was a pickup shot, if they just didn't give the CG people enough time. I don't know, maybe it was a Marvel situation where they didn't know what they wanted it to look like. And so they said, fuck it, we'll just change our minds several times. And that gave them less time. But, like, at least in the Tim Burton one, like, there's a lot of practical in the Tim Burton one. And it looks pretty good. There's some CG, sure, yeah, but, like, it doesn't look like ass. Like, and that was a long time ago now. Like, almost 20 years ago. But yeah, like, I don't know, man. The original is great. Go watch the original. Stay the hell away from Wonka. Like, really, I know that I've heard that, like, some people are saying, oh, it's not that bad, but, like, no, it is. It's terrible. Like, I don't, you know, it's like, I get it. It's in theaters, but you're, like, you have every opportunity. You can get fucking 4K Ultra HD Wonka on Max right now for the same price that you could buy a ticket to go see Wonka, or you can get the 4K original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And like, even Timothy Chalamet, like, his performance, which I'll give him some credit, from watching the film, I think it probably had a lot more to do with direction than his input, but they have him do a lot of things where, like, he says scratch that, reverse it, like, probably 5 times throughout the film, and it's all for, like, different phrases, which, in the original, Wonka says it 3 times, and each time it's the same phrase that he's screwing up, which is, we've got so little to do and so much time. or something along those lines. But like, it seems like it's an intentional, like, oh yeah, that one thing should be the thing that he's messing up. Um, but in this, it's just all over the place because that's what Willy Wonka says, right? Like, and they even have him like every time he walks downstairs, he takes a couple steps back up the stairs, which it's like no, like in the original, there's a reason why Gene Wilder did that. Like he did that to go catch or to go back to the group because he was moving ahead. But but be damned if they actually watched the original and learned anything. But yeah, this was really bad, and it really upset me. I don't know if I would describe it as like a TLJ moment where like a lot of people realized after TLJ how much they really liked Luke Skywalker as a character. But like, because it's like I always knew that I did really like the original Willy Wonka. But yeah, this is it's insulting, and I really, really hope that they don't make another one because it's just gonna be worse. Like, and I don't know how you even go to the original because Willy Wonka he's not morally gray in this film. He's morally good. Like everything that he does is great and wonderful, and he's always on the right side. Like to the point where he's against stealing at one point. Like he tells the little girl because she offers him some milk that's like on the side of the street, and he's like, "No, stealing is bad." But then later just like steals balloons from the zoo, and also frees the zoo's flamingos. And then they steal a giraffe from the zoo, which it's like, oh, it's implied that like they put it back, and it's like, yeah, but like that's the principle of the thing is you shouldn't steal. Like, what? No, that's absurd. Like you can't have that, but then also have him stealing shit. Like, yeah, and it's like, as far as morals go, like, yeah, your kids aren't going to learn anything from this film. Like, at least they learn a moral message from the original. And even the Tim Burton film, they'd learn, like, morals from. But it's like this one, like, sharing is caring? Capitalism bad? Like, I guess those are the morals of the story. Reuniting an orphan with their biological parent, like, which that's a really weird, because yeah, so the little girl, it turns out she is Slugworth's niece, because yeah, they race swapped Slugworth, which I guess technically we didn't know what he looked like in the original, but presumably, like, I know it wasn't super common knowledge probably what the CEO of like this random chocolate company looked like, but I mean, like you'd think that people might be able to spot the difference, but so she's like, so Slugworth like threw her down the laundry chute as a baby because after his brother died, he was next in line for the inheritance, and I guess he was afraid that the baby was going to take it, which it's like, no, the baby doesn't have rights to the inheritance until they're an adult. Like, you would still get to take over the inheritance. But like, it's really weird where she had dreams about her mom like working in the library, and it turns out her mom does work in the library, which is like, oh wow, you just Like, even though you're the one, like, indentured servant that has free reign throughout the day, you just never went to the library? Like, you never, even though she has a fascination with books because she has to teach Willy Wonka how to fucking read, like, she never went there. But Willy Wonka finds out that her mom works and lives in the library, and so he reunites the two of them. And that's when they ape the line, the Oompa Loompa says, and so shines a good deed in a weary world. Which it's like, no, fuck off. Like, that is not the same. Like, that's not, because in the original, in the original, Grandpa Joe has a lot of he has a lot of character. And like, I know people rag on him because it does seem a little weird when it's like, oh, Charlie got the golden ticket, well, now I can get out of bed. But, like, if you actually give the film its credit, Grandpa Joe has given up tobacco, and is trying to further Charlie's ambitions because he realizes that, like, they have a shit life and he wants to make it better for Charlie. Like, and also he gets out of bed to go with Charlie only after Charlie asks him to go with him. And like, Charlie tells him about Slugworth, but they don't do anything about it until the very end, until they're told that, like, they get nothing, you lose, good day, sir. That's when Grandpa Joe, trying to make a better life for Charlie, says, okay, well, let's go sell this to Slugworth. And that's when Charlie, even though he has no reason to, because he believes it's the right thing to do, he gives the everlasting gobstopper back to Willy Wonka. And like, that's the whole point of the story, is that, hey, even if you don't have a reason to, you need to do the right thing. And it's like, oh wow, that's a really good message. Whereas in this, it's like, well, so Willy Wonka doesn't have a reason not to reunite the orphan with her mother. Like, that would be a really weird thing if he was like, oh yeah, so we found your mom, fuck you, I'm not gonna tell you where she is, ha ha ha. Like, you know, it's like that, there's no, like, you know, it's like, so shines a good deed in a weary world. It's like, what do you mean? All the bad guys have been put away. Like, you know, everyone else seems to be really good and delightful, and they all sing along with your musical. Like, I don't understand, where are the bad people? Like, because you got rid of all the bad people. Like, you know, it's not a weary world. Whereas in the original, it is. Like, there's a point to that line in the original. There is not in the new one, other than, hey, wasn't that a cool line in the original? Yeah, look how we shit on it. Yeah, so, yeah, I guess as far as the Wonka franchise goes, yeah, it's quite like Star Wars. The original is like the OT, the Tim Burton remake is like the prequels, and, yeah, Wonka is the sequel trilogy of the Wonka films. So yeah, it's really bad. My throat is getting really sore, so I think I'm gonna end it there. I've been going for about 40 minutes. I've got a couple pauses that I need to cut out, but yeah, this isn't really well edited. It's not scripted, as you can probably tell. But if you like this kind of rant, I may do it in the future. I don't know. I wanted to get my thoughts out on this. This film really pissed me off. So, yeah, I wanted to get the word out that it sucks. Don't go see it. Actively avoid it. Do check out the original though on Max for the same price that you could buy a ticket. It's in 4K on there. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna go now. Bye bye.